Assalamualaikum everyone. Let us continue the lecture with electronic packaging part 2. Now we go to the PCB assembly process continuing from the previous lecture. So PCB assembly is required to assemble electronic as well as mechanical components on the PCB. So electrical components are like IC package, resistor, capacitor, and etc. And another one is mechanical components like a fastener, heat sinks, and many more. There are actually two types of PCB assembly techniques. One is pin-in-hole techniques. Another one is surface mount technology, SMT. And it can also be combination of both PIH and SMT technology in assembling of the PCB. Now let us see the pin-in-hole technology. So pin-in-hole technology involves the PCB assemblies with leaded components like shown in the picture below. Okay, so what will be the step for the assembly process? The first one is component insertion, where the component will be inserted into the circuit and then we'll go through the soldering process where the lead will be soldered to the board, and finally the cleaning and testing and also rework if there is any error on the board. Okay, so there are two types of component. One is axial lead and another one is radial lead. Component insertion in the PIH can be performed in three methods. The first one is semi-automatic, where machine will insert the component whose position on the board, but it is controlled by the human operator. Second one is automatic insertion, where everything is controlled by the program and prepared directly from the circuit design data. And the third one is non-standard components, usually performed manually. This one usually involves 5 to 10% on insertion only on the board. After the insertion of the component on the board, the soldering will take place. So for pin-in-hole, there are two types of soldering. One is hand soldering, where it is performed by the manual worker, and another one is wave soldering. Hand soldering usually performed by the skilled worker to make the connection using soldering iron. It is a slow process and generally used for small production and rework. Sometimes it is also used to add delicate component that could be damaged if with soldering is used. But this process is subject to human error due to the quality problem during the process. Wave soldering, on the other hand, is a mechanized technique where component will be inserted and then solder moved by conveyor over a standing wave of molten solder, as shown in the picture below. Okay, so the lead projecting down through the holes, and then only the underside of the board is contacting with the solder. Combination of capillary action and upward force will cause the liquid solder to flow into the clearance between the leads and then through the hole to make the solder join between the holes in the board. The advantage of wave soldering, it is performed in a single pass compared to the hand soldering. PIH have their own limitation, especially in terms of packing density. So component can be mounted only on one side of the board and relatively large center to center distance between the lead pin. It cannot be too crowded, then if not the soldering will be attached together and then causing short circuit or any damage to the board. Another technology to assemble the PCB board is surface mount technology, SMT. So compared to the PIH, component leads are soldered to the land on the PCB surface, meaning that all the components is soldered on the board, on the surface without the holes. So For this process, the advantage will be smaller component can be made with the lid closure, so they can increase the packing density, and it require only 20 to 60% of board surface compared to the PIH techniques. Other than that, it can be also double-sided circuit, so the component can be mounted on both sides of the board. Another thing is drilling of through holes can be eliminated. However, wire holes is still needed to interconnect layer of the board. Let's say if the board is double-sided, then to connect both circuit from each side, the wire hole is still needed. To differentiate between the PIH technology, the term component on session is used for the SMT, for the component placement on the board surface. So usually for SMT, all the component is placed automatically using the machine and computer control. So on session rate up to 4 components per second can be achieved, and if I'm not mistaken, I've seen a video that there are 60 components can be placed in 1 minute. Component placement on SMT is performed automatically by the machines, by the device. So it will correctly position the component on the PCB and affixing it sufficiently until soldering proof a permanent placement with the proper connection. There are two placement and soldering methods. One is adhesive bonding and wave soldering, and another one is solder paste and reflow soldering. Now let us see the first process, which is adhesive bonding and wave soldering. For this process, adhesive, which is epoxy or acrylic, is used as the adhesive material and usually applied by these three methods. One is through a screen stencil. Another one is automatic dispensing machine with a programmable XY positioning, or it can also be applied by using pin transfer method, where fixture consisting of pin dip into liquid adhesive and then position it onto the board surface. Now let's see the process one by one. The first one, adhesive will be applied on the on between the land and also the track that previously already performed in the on the board. Okay, so after that, the component will be placed onto the adhesive coated area, and then adhesive will go through curing process to dry up the adhesive, and finally it will be joined by wave soldering. Now let us see the next process, which is solder paste and reflowing soldering. In this process, solder paste consists of the solder and also the flux must be applied on the part. Okay, so this process is performed using screen printing and syringe dispensing. So a low temperature baking is performed to dry the flux binder, and then heating of solder to melt the solder particle. So this melt will form a high quality mechanical and electrical joint between the leads and circuit land on the board. Now let's see the process one by one. The starting process will be the starting land, and then solder paste consisting of the solder material and also the flux is placed on the land before the component is placed onto the board. So after that, after all the components has been placed on the board, bake paste will take place, where some heating will be given on the board before the solder will start to reflow and connect all the leads of the component. Solder paste consists of suspension of solder powder mixed with the flux binder. Okay, so three functions of solder paste will be: act as a solder, where 80 to 90% of total paste volume, and it can also act as a flux to prevent the corrosion on the solder, and then act as adhesive that secure component on the board before the bake process. So this is the comparison between the adhesive bonding and solder paste and reflow methods. So you can see the comparison in between the picture, how the process differ. Lastly, there are some video links that you can refer to see the process and to understand more on the process of PCB assembly. I hope you will get some info further for the PCB assembly in these videos. So that's the end of electronic packaging. So we're going to continue our lecture with the next topic in the next class. Thank you for listening. See you. Assalamualaikum.